Before we can start building agents, I think it's really important to build intuition about what AI is capable of doing right now and what AI is not yet capable of doing. And the reason it's very important to keep a date in the bottom right of this presentation is that what AI is capable of doing is changing very, very quickly. And so whatever I'm saying to you now will probably not be true in 6 months or a year from now, but it's good to kind of stay on the pulse of where AI is at the moment. So what I'm going to show you first is 10 things AI is good at with three examples of each. So 30 specific use cases where AI can help you. And I bet everyone on this call will have at least 10 of these use cases. The first thing AI is good at is classification. For most of us, that was our first experience using AI in a productivity tool, the Gmail spam filter. I see there's a cool little annotatey tool. I'm not sure how that works, but please don't annotate the screen if you don't mind. So the first tool is classification. You've probably seen that in something like the Gmail spam filter, which classifies new incoming emails as spam or not spam. Here are the examples of how you could apply classification today. Whether it's a cold email from a salesperson that you should delete, whether it's expense that needs to fit into one category in QuickBooks or another category, whether it's a lead that you want to classify by industry like real estate, law, etc. AI is very good at taking in an object and putting it into one or multiple categories. Number two is extraction. We very often in our work get big unstructured objects. This could be like a PDF or a photo or a video or an audio transcript or a web page or a full scrape of a customer's website. And AI is really good at extracting specific pieces of information in a structured format from that unstructured data. So, for example, you could give it a PDF of an invoice, and AI would extract the amount and the due date. You could give it the photo, a JPEG of a driver's license, and the AI could extract the person's home address. You could give it the list of price, a web page, a web scrape, and AI could extract the list of prices. Third, summarization. Taking one long form artifact and condensing it into a short form artifact that mirrors the same content. We've probably all used this in some capacity, summarizing a 50-page meeting transcript into one page, summarizing a 60-minute podcast into show notes, summarizing a 10-minute YouTube video into a description. Number four, this is the double-edged sword, writing. We've all seen AI slop, and so if you don't use the AI correctly, it won't produce good content. But if you give the AI good examples, if you give it good instructions about your tone of voice, if you give it a meaningful prompt with some unique insight, it can write very good social posts, proposal documents for clients, video scripts, etc. And number five, this is nascent and changing every day. There was a big announcement from Google yesterday with a new image and video generation model. But AI is becoming increasingly good at generating images for posters, automatically generating audio with a voice that matches yours for voiceovers for videos, for example, or fully AI generated video clips for ads. And then number six, AI is very, very good at research. And probably for most of us, I'm guessing this is what we're using ChatGPT for most at the moment, search and research use cases. Given a person in a company I'm meeting, automatically create a personalized dossier about them. When my competitor has made a launch, automatically research their price and offerings. Every day, go look for news articles and sources on a particular topic. AI is very good at research. So these first examples, I'm guessing most of us have experienced. If you're like a 3+ in the ChatGPT rating, I'm guessing you've done some amount of all six of these things, either every day in your work or in experimentation. Next, I want to show you four use cases or capabilities that you might not have thought of because they're a bit more advanced, but they're actually very, very valuable. The seventh is synthesis. So, summarization is taking one long form artifact and condensing its insights into a shorter form version. Synthesis is taking an aggregation across multiple artifacts and coming up with common patterns or ideas across them. For example, you may do calls with your customers, like discovery interviews every week, and you might want to aggregate insights across them of who the competitors are, or what the pain points are, or what they like or don't like about your tool. You may get customer support issues every day from your users, and you might want to combine those into a synthesis of what are the areas of the product that we most need to invest in. You might want to look at all of the launches that have appeared in AI models for the past 2 weeks and come up with a synthesis of like what's going on across all of AI. This is something that tends to not be just delegating a mundane task you could have done yourself anyway or would have done yourself anyway, but something that you're probably not doing because it's way too much work right now, but AI can actually do it for you. Similarly, analysis. I bet every one of us in our jobs has something where we like write a weekly or a monthly update based on some data. Many of us are probably writing investor updates for the first of the month coming up on, I think, Sunday or Monday. But you might do a weekly metrics report. You might have to do a daily summary of user reports. You might have to do an analysis of customer churn reasons. So anytime you find yourself thinking like, ooh, based on this spreadsheet, I need to write a daily, weekly, or monthly email, you should get AI to help you with that. AI is very good at analyzing spreadsheets and patterns and compiling those into really nice, crisp reports. Number nine is grading. Grading is kind of like classification, where you're putting an object into a category, but you're also giving some rationale and color on top of that. So, for example, you might want to grade an applicant who's applied for a position. You might want to grade a previous email or document you've written to see how it could have done better. Could better. The third one is a very common one in like customer health scoring. You may want to grade the likelihood that a customer is going to renew, and then give some commentary on why the customer is an A plus renewal or why they're, a C and at risk. And last but not least is coaching. AI models are not just interns to delegate mundane tasks to. They're often in certain areas like have way more expertise than any of us. And so, for example, I'm new to sales. I'm just learning how to do sales because it's never been part of my job before. And so I have an AI coach review all my transcripts and suggest improvements. I've gotten pretty good at content creation on social media, but I wasn't 2 years ago. And the way I got better at it was I built a little AI coach that looked at all my LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts and made suggestions of how I could make them better. Similarly, I have an AI coach that looks at all of my meetings and tells me how I could run them more effectively. So this was just kind of get like our creative juices flowing. These are 10 things that AI is good at right now, 30 specific use case. And so if you find yourself only using a fraction of these, there's probably more headroom for you to use AI in your day-to-day work. Now, so here's a little cheat sheet that you can like, staple to your bulletin board or whatever. Okay, so that's AI in general. Now, the question we're going to answer today is what is an AI agent specifically, as opposed to other modalities of using AI in your work? And I want to start with a technical definition and then share why I think the technical definition is not the most practically useful or relevant. Here's the technical definition from Google. AI agents are software systems that use AI to pursue goals and complete tasks on behalf of users. They show reasoning, planning, and memory and have a level of autonomy to make decisions, learn, and adapt. Anthropic has a similar but more precise technical definition: systems where large language models dynamically direct their own processes and tool usage, maintaining control over how they accomplish tasks. So from reading these definitions, I get the idea that AI agents are more autonomous somehow than other AI systems that I use. They have some reasoning, they can make some decisions. But from these technical definitions, I don't know how exactly I'm going to use an AI agent in my work. And so I think a more practical way to view it is that we are all going to be interacting with AI in three different modalities. We are all already using AI chatbots. If you've visited ChatGPT, you've used an AI chatbot. It is the destination that you go to in a web application or a mobile application, and you type stuff into it, and the AI type stuffs back at you. This can be for question answering, for research, for content creation iteration. Your AI can be your thought partner, whatever it might be. But fundamentally, it's a destination you go to and you have a conversation with the AI. And there are use cases for which that is great, like search and research. If you're doing a one-off exercise to create a strategic plan for the next month, the chatbot is a great tool for that job. The second is a copilot. And a copilot is not an AI that lives in its own destination, but an AI that assists you in another tool, creating whatever artifact that tool is built to create. So, for example, many of us have probably used a tool like Grammarly over the years, which is a copilot that lives within our browser. And whenever we're typing something in an email or in a document, and we've made a grammar or spelling mistake, Grammarly underlines it and points it out to us. Some of you who are more technical may have used a tool like Cursor, and you've used autocomplete as you're writing code. Another example of this, you may have tried one of the vibe coding tools like Lovable or Bolt or V0, and they all have kind of the same structure where there's a main artifact that you're creating, which is the web page, and there's a copilot on the left-hand side where you are using natural language to guide the AI to create that artifact. So this could be like the way you know it's a copilot is like, oh, if it injects an autocomplete into the thing, it's a copilot. If it does red squigglies in the thing, it's a copilot. If it's a side panel where the primary content is something else, it's a copilot. And there are many use cases where a copilot is valuable when you want to use AI to help you in the creation process of making some artifact. But this is where there's a real difference between chatbots, copilots, and agents. Chatbots and copilots are still fundamentally places where you go to have a synchronous interaction with the AI. You are in the process of doing work and you're either talking to the AI or you're doing something else and the AI is assisting you. An agent is fundamentally different. An agent, once you've set it up, works on your behalf on its own behind the scenes. You do not have to go visit a website. You do not have to go be talking to a co-pilot. Once you've set up the agent, it will automatically create drafts of email replies on your behalf. It'll automatically notify you about no-shows to upcoming calendar events. It'll automatically research and enrich new clients that get added to your CRM. So there's a configuration component, but once it's configured, it runs automatically on your behalf. And that's why I think agents are so powerful because this is the first example of a productivity tool. And I've worked on productivity tools my whole career. For my whole career, productivity tools have been a place where I go to click buttons. And yeah, we try to make those buttons easier to click and more helpful, but an agent is fundamentally different. It does work on your behalf and can replace like material labor that you would otherwise have to do. I see a couple comments in the chat. Okay, about the recording. Perfect. So I'll keep going. If you're deep, if you're deep in the Twitter sphere about this, you've probably seen a lot of debate about workflows versus agents. One person will say, I made an agent to do X, and then someone else will say, oh, but that's just a workflow. That's just a workflow, agent washed as an agent. And they'll have this pedantic conversation about the technical definition of a workflow versus an agent. And I think this whole debate is silly, but I still think it's important to understand it because there is a nugget of value in understanding the spectrum of workflow to agent. So let me try to clarify that now. Every task in the real world has a flowchart associated with it. For example, when I go grocery shopping, there's a flowchart. First, I turn right into the produce section. First, I go to the stone fruit section. Then I look at the peaches, the apricots, and the plums, and I see which one looks best, and I put it in my cart. And you could write out the whole flowchart of like the entire grocery shopping experience. Every task has a flowchart. When you delegate a task to someone, there's some expectation that they're going to achieve the task in a similar way to what was done in that flowchart. And there are two basic techniques for how you can do that. One is you can write the full flowchart out for them and say, here, my daughter, here is exactly how you are going to go navigate this grocery store. You're going to go here, you're going to look at this, you're going to go here, you're going to look at this, and then you're going to merge with a cart that has these items in it. So the flowchart is defined in advance by the person. That is a workflow. An agent, on the other hand, has a goal and a set of tools, and it comes up with its own flowchart on the fly. So to use the grocery shopping example, I would tell my daughter, your goal is to get our groceries for the week. Your tools are you can evaluate whether a piece of fruit or produce looks good. You can check to see, you can, call home and see if we have something in the fridge, and you can look at examples of past meals we've had. Go. Good luck. Figure out how to navigate the grocery store to figure out how to achieve that goal. And so that's the technical definition. A workflow, you specify the flowchart up front. An agent, you give a goal and a set of tools, and you let the AI figure out how to achieve that goal. Now, in practice, I think these are much more similar than they are distinct. And here's why. I've listed these two bullets on here. Number one, they both play the same fundamental role in my life. In both cases, my daughter is going to the grocery store and buying groceries on behalf of our family. There's just like a subtle difference in how I gave her the instructions about how to do so and how much autonomy I gave her in that task. But it's the same fundamental thing. I've delegated this important job to something doing it on my behalf. And the second, it's a spectrum rather than a binary distinction because in every workflow these days, there's some AI component and decision making. And in every agent, there's some part of the prompt where you say, first do this, then do this, then do this. So it's really, you should think of it as a spectrum of based on the task, how much autonomy do I want to give to the AI versus how much structure I want to give. And the reason I think this is a very natural mental model is we all already know how to do this with human employees. We all know if you have a more junior employee, who's never done a task before, you probably need to say, like, let's say you have a junior employee who's setting up a webinar. You probably say, like, okay, here's the process of setting up a webinar. First, you create the calendar event. Then you create the Zoom link. Then you create the Luma invitation page. Then you're going to promote it through our newsletter. Then you're going to promote it through our LinkedIn. Then you're going to collect all the signups. And you would kind of spell out in significant detail like what has to happen at each step, more of a workflow. If you're hiring a very experienced marketing manager, you would just say like, run a webinar for us. And here's the tools we use. We use Zoom, we use Luma, we use LinkedIn, whatever. And of course, in most cases, it'll be somewhere in between. You'll say like, here's, a webinar and your goal and the tools, and here's some specific specific components I want you to keep in mind. So when you hear people debating, oh, workflows are totally different from agents, I don't think that's right. I think the really important thing you need to care about is that an agent is fundamentally different from a chatbot or a copilot because an agent does work automatically on your behalf in the background. And then the workflow versus agent distinction is just a spectrum of how much autonomy versus concrete guidance you give it to get the job done. Does that make sense? Let me pause here for questions, and then I'm going to show you some common patterns.
Less a question and more a comment. Speaking in from a business perspective, one of the guiding principles we have is start simple, which means analyzing workflows and figuring out what are all the touch points that are human, what are the touch points that are tools or systems, and documenting that, and then figuring out what the most expensive ones are, potentially starting with some element of that whole workflow by providing that to an agent. So I rarely talk about agentic without talking about workflow. So I don't know actually how to have that conversation without talking about workflow in the workplace.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people try to paint them as two totally different things, I think create more confusion
Yeah.
than clarity. The really good question to ask is when I'm delegating an important part of my business to an agent, how can I feel confident that it's going to do the right thing? And there are two basic techniques that you have. Number one, you can specify the workflow more concretely up front so you know what the flow chart is going to look like and you can feel confident the agent is going to operate within those bounds. And then second, you can make some actions require a human in the loop approval. And so I think this is a super important point. When I think about human in the loop, I think about two axes that determine the nature of how much human in the loop is needed. One is how good is AI likely to be at this use case, and the second is how high stakes it is. So for example, if AI is very good at it and it's very low stakes, you don't need a human in the loop. For example, AI is very good at writing summaries of our team meeting and sending them over Slack to us, and it's super low stakes. Like, if the summary of the internal team meeting over Slack is not quite right, no problem. Like, we've still got the transcript, it's internal only. On the other hand, AI is not very good, in my experience, at writing super high quality personalized follow-ups based on meetings. And those are very high stakes because they're like a personal interaction with someone I just met, whether it's a customer or a prospect or a partner. And so that's an area where I would recommend having a human in the loop. And so as you're thinking about how to deploy AI in a safe, effective, incremental way, those are the two techniques I would think about. One is start with more structured workflows so you can feel confident that the AI is going to stay, quote, on the rails. And then second, have a human in the loop before any high stakes interaction, like posting something on your LinkedIn or sending an email to a customer.
Yeah, and you don't have to have it replicate the workflow that you feed it. You can ask it to make it more efficient as long as it knows the outcome as well. So it doesn't, you can feed it more without telling it exactly what to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's what I've seen myself do over time. Like I might start with a very rigid workflow and then I'll just relax it over time as I gain more confidence in the AI's ability to make decisions. But that's already like many steps down the journey. I would advise everyone to start with just like very simple AI-based workflows with a light human in the loop that are really reliable and high quality. Okay, let me
And
show you.
also,
Oh
just
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
one other thing, the human in the loop element, where I've seen that fall down is, oh, I'm just going to feed it a bunch of legacy data. And then later on, why am I getting terrible output from this process? So
So this is one of the things that bugs me a lot, where people are
it
like,
drives me
AI
crazy.
is so, they're like, AI is so bad at writing. I wrote a prompt, write a blog post about AI in legal, and it gave me a generic fluffy blog post. It's like, well, yeah, if you give it a one sentence prompt with no unique insight and no context and no interesting data, like what could it possibly do other than write slop? So yes, it's and here's one other point that I want to quickly make. I'm curious to hear if this matches everyone else's experience, but there's so much talk about prompt engineering, prompt engineering, prompt engineering. Get better at writing prompts, get better at writing prompts. Use all these super complex 500 word prompt frameworks. In my experience, that has been the wrong approach. I've gotten by far the best results with a simple prompt, but very well curated examples and context and data. Because AI is very good. It can take the simple prompt and do a very good job if you give it the right data, the right insights, the right context. No amount of high quality prompting is going to save you if the underlying insight or data or context is wrong. So I would recommend spending less of your time writing prompts and more of your time curating the data and the context that go into the workflow or the agent or the AI experience. Okay, with that, let me move on. I want to show you some common patterns. Again, this is just to get your ideas flowing of kinds of things that you could build an AI workflow or agent for. Um, Number one, and this is by far the most common, something has happened in one of my tools. I want to process it somehow with AI and then do something in that tool or another tool. For example, when a PDF arrives as an invoice arrives as a PDF in my email, extract the key information using AI and write it to a spreadsheet. When a new prospect signs up with the form on my website, automatically enrich their details and add them to my CRM. When I've completed a meeting with a customer and I've received a transcript from Fireflies, automatically extract the key points and turn that into a proposal document. This is like, if you're familiar with Zapier or tools in that category, you can think of this as like an if this then Zap, where you've just added a bit of AI intelligence into the middle of it. And that can increase the capabilities of these workflows like dramatically. The second pattern is very similar, except instead of reacting to something internal to your systems, you're reacting to an event in the outside world. For example, when a new YouTube is posted on a competitor's channel, analyze it with AI and send it in a summary Slack. When a new comment is added on Reddit that mentions our brand, analyze the sentiment with AI and then create a digest report from it. When a new SEC statement comes out that has some implication for the public markets and our customers, automatically check to see which of our customers might be impacted and update our CRM. And fundamentally, this is a very similar type of experience to processing based on an internal tool. It's just the techniques and the technical tools we use to achieve this are often different, plugging into our own SaaS tools versus plugging into things in the outside world. The third really common pattern is event preparation. The canonical use case for this is meeting preparation. When a meeting is upcoming, look up the LinkedIn profiles of all the guests that I haven't met before, write a personalized dossier of each of them, and send it to me over email. But there's other examples like when a conference is upcoming, look up the other attendees and make a spreadsheet of who I should prioritize connecting with while I'm there. Or when an important customer renewal date is coming up in a month, look at the customer health score and see if I need to take any action before the renewal. So in this case, the AI agent is waking up not because of a specific event that has occurred, but because of the presence of an upcoming event in the future. And then the fourth pattern that I see all the time is recurring analysis. This is useful for these kind of synthesis, insights, and analysis use cases. Every day, week, month, look up some information, use AI to analyze it, and then take appropriate action. So every day, look up all my customer call transcripts, send me the insights over Slack. Every week, look up the most common support tickets, synthesize them, and file bugs with the engineering team. Every month, look at all of the LinkedIn posts my competitors have made and give me an analysis of what we think they're up to and focused on based on that. These are the four super common patterns. Okay, I'm going to break there. We're exactly on time, 30 minutes in. Any questions about those patterns or AI agent definitions or use cases before we get into a real example?
Hey Jacob, you touched on this. I'm Christina, by the way.
Hey,
You touched
Christina.
on this a little bit, but I wondered if you could double click. So your list of things that AI is really good at is helpful. I also wonder if you could share some things you think AI is really bad at, because I think that helps us when we're constructing workflows to say these are places where we either need more definition or put a human in the loop or put some
Yeah,
guardrails of some kind.
great question. Let me tell you a few things that I've tried and failed at with AI, and with the caveat that those could change. So one is in media generation. There's so much hype about image and video and voice generation on social media right now because you can get these amazing cinematic images of like a Viking ship going into a tornado and a bolt of lightning hit it and it's amazing and it blows our minds. But then you ask AI to generate like a simple piece of marketing collateral or a webinar poster and it misspells the word webinar. And so that's an example where I think in media generation, it's really good at the cinematic stuff. It's not as good as like practical nuts and bolts infographics, things that mix text and imagery. I'm hoping the Google model that came out yesterday is better than at that. It claims to be. I haven't played with it yet myself, but that's an area where I see a lot of people get stuck. They're like, "Oh, AI should be able to just generate imagery for all my marketing collateral." Not in my experience right now, unless you have very cinematic marketing collateral. Another example is that AI is not very good at comprehensive list building. And so a really common thing you might ask it to do is like, make me a list of all 100 leads I should pursue in this industry. And if you type that into ChatGPT, I bet you it'll give up after 10. Like you'll say like, let's say you sell to local hair salons in a particular zip code. Just say, hey, list out all the hair salons in 94107 or whatever, and it'll give you like three. And you'll know there are 20, but it'll give you three. And so maybe the way I would phrase this is like these AI models are not built for creating comprehensive lists of things. And so if you want to get a comprehensive list, you'll need to combine multiple techniques to do so. So for example, if I was looking for all the hair salons in California, I would first try to break it down and say like, here are all the geographies, here are all the common indicators of hair salons and brands, and now use all of these together to keep going until you get the full list of 1,000. Those are the two things that I've seen a lot of people get seduced by. They're like, oh, AI is going to create all my marketing collateral, or AI is going to find all my list of leads, and it falls short. Then to your question about where human in the loop is necessary is no amount of training is going to make AI write exactly like you write, you personally. And so I still have yet to see a tool where I would recommend you delegate all of your writing to AI without a human in the loop. Anytime something you've written is going to end up in an email or in a document or on a LinkedIn post, you have to keep a human in the loop there. Whereas other types of use case, insights, analysis, summary, classification, those work really, really, really well. There was another thing so another area that that AI struggles with right now is kind of in the media example is um, multimodal output. I'll give you an example. I was working on this thing last night where we have these pages on our blog that I want to update every 3 months, and I was able to build a very good AI agent that could scrape the blog, make suggestions of how to improve it, but it was not able to actually make the edits because the edits sometimes needed to be a combination of editing images and editing text and getting the formatting exactly right with the HTML tags in our content management system. And so these are the limitations that I think we're going to see overcome in the next year or so. But th those are some of my personal struggles with trying to bend AI to my will. Does that answer your question, Christina? Are those useful?
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. Oh, cool. I see people are already recommending some tools that work better for some of the things I claimed AI is not that good at. That's great. Because I anticipate that anything that AI is not yet good at today, it will be good at. Or there are going to be up and coming tools that get really good at it. Oh, there's kind of a side question there that I want to address, which is about model selection. You've probably used ChatGPT as your main chatbot, but you've probably heard of other models like Gemini or the Claude models or Grok or more specialized models like 11 Labs or Assembly AI. And I do think it's important to experiment with different models because they are good at different things. Here's my personal cheat sheet of the models I'm using right now, and your mileage may vary. Um, my generic go-to workhorse model is GPT 4.1. When I'm taking on a new use case, I'll usually default to GPT 4.1. When I want to do writing or code generation, I'll pick Claude 4 Sonnet. When I want to do like analysis on a spreadsheet or some kind of mathematical computations, I'll pick OpenAI's O3. And when I want to do insights or summarization across a big corpus of data, like a big PDF, I'll pick Gemini 2.5 Flash because it has the biggest context window and it's the most cost effective for those large tests. So those are my personal four go-to models today for those different use cases. But you should test them out and build intuition about what your kind of toolbox is at any given point in time. Okay, shall we build something together live? I'll share my screen and we'll get going. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to build one of the things that I said AI is not that good at, but I'm going to show you how to do it in a way that I think AI can succeed. So here's the use case that I'm going to show you. I'm a founder of an early stage company, and I want to sell employee onboarding, offboarding, and benefits software to HR leaders at large private technology companies like Airtable, Notion, and Sentry. And what I want to do is I want to put into my spreadsheet a target company and a job title, and I want the AI to give me in another tab the lead name, lead title, and LinkedIn profile of the right people to contact at that company. I'm going to show you how to build an AI agent that does this. So you can see I'm now in a workflow or agent building tab. You can see it's called lead research at the top. So first, uh, every AI workflow or agent starts with a trigger. And again, if you're used to Zapier, you'll know very well what triggers are. They're the mechanism that tells your AI when to wake up and when to do things. And if you click add trigger, you can see that there's a bunch of different types of triggers. You can trigger manually by clicking on something. You can trigger on a recurring schedule. But in most cases, you want to trigger based on some action that's occurring in an app. And in this case, the app I want to trigger on is Google Sheets. When a new row is added to that LinkedIn lead spreadsheet. So when a new company is added specifically. So you can see here, I've got a little preview box in the bottom that shows me the 3 rows that are already in that spreadsheet that I'm going to be able to use for testing. Then after I've done a trigger, I want to ask my AI to do some stuff on my behalf. I want it to go to LinkedIn and I want it to find some profiles from those companies. So I'm going to add a step. I'm going to type LinkedIn because LinkedIn is the place I want to go. I'm going to click find people based on company and role. And now I want to pull in the URL of the LinkedIn profile of that company based on the row that triggered this instance of the workflow. So I'm going to hover over row and select target company LinkedIn URL. And then similarly for the job title, I'm going to hover over the row and pull in the job title. I don't care about location, we'll sell anywhere. And I want it to return a maximum of 20 profiles because there could be like a pretty sizable number of people that work in HR in these companies. So I'm sending out the AI, I'm saying, go find 20 people, up to 20 people who work at this job title in this company. Now, I want to use AI to take that raw set of people and I want it to find the 3 people most likely to be a decision maker for buying software. So I'm going to add an AI step and I'm going to make it an extract step. And I want to extract from the list of profiles. And I'm going to say, given a list of LinkedIn profiles at company, and I'm going to pull in the company name with job titles like at job title. Find me the 3 that are most likely to be a decision maker to buy new software. For each of the 3, output their name, title, LinkedIn profile URL. And so this prompt I wrote here is very similar to a prompt you write in ChatGPT. But there are 2 big differences to prompting in ChatGPT versus prompting in a workflow. In ChatGPT, I'm having an interactive back and forth conversation in text. So if I miss something in my initial prompt, that's fine because I can just refine it later on in the conversation. When you have this prompt running in a behind the scenes agent or workflow, it's got to be one shot because it's just going to happen. And so anything you want to include in your prompt, you better include there. The second is because this is just one step of many, you need to think very carefully about what inputs and data does the AI need to achieve its goal, and then what outputs do I want to get back for the next step. So in this case, the inputs, the AI needs access to that set of profiles that were retrieved in the previous step, and the output is going to be a list where each entry in the list has a name, a title, and a LinkedIn profile URL. Okay, now last but not least, I need to write all of those LinkedIn URLs to a spreadsheet. And what I want to show you here actually is I want to show you an example of a co-pilot that can help you build workflows. We just launched this and I want to see if it's going to work. Okay, I'm going to say loop over the AI responses and add a row for each to the spreadsheet. And now in theory, my AI copilot should help me turn this into a live running workflow that's going to automatically loop over the list. Because remember, I output three decision makers, and I want to add each of those three decision makers to the spreadsheet. So you can see here that my AI got this almost right. It got it almost right. Let me show you why I got it almost right. So it correctly identified that I want to loop. It correctly identified that I want to loop over the output of my AI step three. The only thing it got wrong is it thought I wanted to add the rows to the company's sheet, but I actually want to add the rows to the leads sheet, which is the second tab in the spreadsheet. And then I'm going to click auto suggest, and hopefully the AI should be smart enough about filling in which things I want to add. Yep, I want to add the lead name, the lead title, the lead profile URL. Perfect. Okay, so now I have built an AI agent. Whenever a new row is added to that company's sheet, it's going to find some people, it's going to extract the top three decision makers, and it's going to add them to the leads row. Let me test it and see if it works. Let's see. Should we use? Let's use. Let's use Notion. Let's find some leads who work in HR at Notion. So now I'm watching the workflow run. It looks like it found one person who works in HR at Notion. I wonder if Notion calls their people instead of HR people. I might have to go edit the query and try again, but let's see. In this case, it's now going from that LinkedIn profile and extracting the information I wanted, like the name, the job title, and the what else did I ask for? Yeah, the LinkedIn profile URL. Let me just answer a couple of questions in the chat while the AI is thinking. Okay. Oh yeah, I'll answer the question about tools in a second. Yeah, this is our tool, Relay.app. I really didn't want to emphasize that it's my tool because there's not supposed to be an ad for Relay.app. Relay.app is just one of the tools in the space, and I'll explain in some detail what other tools are in the space and which one you might want to consider and why. Um, and yeah, this is a pretty limited search because it's only searching HR. If I was doing this for real, I'd probably want to expand it to include like people operations or human resources and stuff. But you'll see that it basically worked in that it got a lead, it gave me their title, it gave me the actual LinkedIn profile of this person, and they do indeed like have this job at Notion. So now let me try to run it again, but I'm going to change from HR to people operations. I'm going to go back to Relay. I'm going to start another test run. Enter there. Start another one, and let's try it with Notion again. And we can talk while it's running because it'll take a moment. Okay, see a couple questions in the chat. Karina asks, in this company, would we also want to specify they're currently at the company? That would be a great thing to add to that AI extract step. Let me do that. Let me just show you how to do that right now. You'd say, please make sure that everyone in the list is currently at the company, not there previously. And these are the kind of things that you'll figure out over time as the AI gets things wrong, that you want to add these additional instructions to your prompt. Yeah, and Beth, you're right. HR coordinator is probably not a decision maker, but it was the only thing that came back. So the AI did its best guess. And so you could also say like decision makers must have a director, VP, or C level title. that again will give us a better chance. It'll give the AI a better chance of getting the decision maker that we want if you're selling something to high level people. Let me just get this Zoom thumbnail out of the way so I can publish those changes. Let's see how this other one is doing. Okay, this other one found 20 profiles. And so now I think it's going to do a better job because of those 20 profiles, it's going to find the three that are most likely to be decision maker. So let me go to the leads tab. Let's see what comes in. Okay, so now we're talking here. These are actually probably three pretty good decision makers. The chief people officer, the chief of staff in the people division, and then a people partner lead. Like I'm guessing the AI now has done a good job of from those 20 people in people operations at Notion, extracting those that are likely to be the actual decision makers. So yeah, that's our running workflow that we built in 10 minutes. Let me stop sharing and then go back to the chat.
Jacob, there was one question earlier about kind of other tools in the landscape and what's
Yes.
good for who and what should we kind of be considering in that decision.
Yeah, in our particular niche of workflow and agent building that are horizontal, there are seven leading tools that I think are should be in consideration. Three of them are tools that were previously automation and workflow tools that are adding AI capabilities. Those are Zapier, Make.com, and N8N. The other three are new agent building tools that are also adding automation and workflow capability. Those are Lindy.ai, Gumloop, and Relevance. And then I would put Relay as the seventh tool you should consider. So those are the seven tools that we see people primarily picking. I'm not saying those are the only seven in the space, but those are the seven that we see come up the most often. And in general, I think you should decide based on two factors. Number one, how technical are you and how much control do you want to have over like writing code? So if you're very technical, if you're comfortable constructing webhooks and HTTP requests and JSON objects and writing custom code and doing self-hosting, you should probably pick N8N. And aside from N8N, you should also consider Make.com and Gumloop. Those are three super high quality tools that are aimed at more technical audiences. If you're less technical, you should consider Lindy, Zapier, Relevance, and Relay.app. They all have free tiers. You should try out and see which ones work best. So number one, I think you should consider ease of use and usability based on your level of technical expertise. And then second, you should make sure it integrates with all the tools you use. Because if it doesn't integrate with all the tools you use, you're going to have to hack around it. So yeah, I would write down all the tools that you want things to integrate with it. Check which providers integrate with your tools. Test out a few to see which are easiest to use, keeping in mind whether you want a more technical product or a less technical product, and then make a choice. But again, another thing to keep in mind with this space is it's not like picking a CRM where you really have to pick one CRM because you want all your data in your CRM and it has to be one thing. In this space, all of the tools in this category charge based on usage, not based on seats. So the subscription is not very expensive. And so you may find in an organization of 50 people, some people like Zapier for this, some people like Relay for that, some people like N8N for that. And it's super common to consider multiple of these tools in your toolbox in the same way that you might consider having an OpenAI model like a GPT model and an Anthropic model like Claude both in your toolbox because they might be useful in different situations. And the subscriptions are cheap. It's the usage that gets expensive.
There was another question in the chat about compliance-based AI tools to avoid, for example, HIPAA non-compliance.
I don't know off the top of my head which of the tools I mentioned are HIPAA compliant. I know they're all SOC 2 Type 2 certified, and I would trust any of those with my data. If you have HIPAA specific requirements, you'll have to check. You'll have to check. My guess is that will pretty significantly limit your choice of tools, unfortunately.
Hey, Jacob, I have a question. I'll just ask real time instead of in the chat,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead,
which
Beth.
is I've been trying to solve for what you're doing for a while with LinkedIn, and a lot of the privacy standards behind LinkedIn are limiting, the access to a lot of data. For example, if I want to find prospects in companies between 500 and 5,000 employees in specific industries in certain role titles, there's the correlation of the company and the person that it's really challenging to mesh these together. Have you solved for that? Because that's really hard, and I would love to produce, a simple, again, list, and it's for prospecting. I'll be flat out honest,
Yeah,
That's how we
yeah.
find, that's our ICP, and we need to go after them in that way. And using LinkedIn and its ways, it doesn't produce what we need to.
The best technique that I found, which is not perfect by any means, is I try to separate the company searching from the people searching. So first, I generate a list of target companies. Then I generate a list of people within those target companies. Because once you have a target company, you can go, and this is what our AI agent does. It goes to the LinkedIn company profile, looks at the people who are employed there, does a search within that company based on job title. And so that's the separation I would do. Um, because my guess is like at any given time, you it depends on what your technique is. Like this is the technique I'm optimizing for is like high precision, LinkedIn connection, write content, bring people to you with content. If you want to do like spray and pray outbound, you should use a tool like Smart Lead or Instantly or Apollo or combine those with Zoom Info. But yeah, what I recommend doing is if you're just getting started and you don't want to buy an expensive tool, make a spreadsheet just like I made. In one tab, you have target companies. In the other tab, you have target leads. And then you can either populate those tabs manually or with AI. You could ask AI, give me four more target companies based on these criteria. And then you could ask AI, like what we just did, is give me the three decision makers that I most likely want to speak to at this target company. I actually did like a super detailed step-by-step build with me of this yesterday, and I just posted it on our YouTube channel, so I can share that afterwards if you're interested. It basically runs automatically every week, finds five new target companies, finds the top five people that contacted those target companies and sends them to you over email. So you have every week in your inbox 25 people to go connect to and potentially reach out to on LinkedIn.
Perfect. That's exactly it.
Yeah, and this is again, this is good for the basics. If you want to run, like a 10K a week cold email thing, like that, you'll need a whole different set of tools and sophistication and technology for that.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Jill, you asked a good question about hallucination. I personally have not had any hallucination problems recently. I know this was a big, big problem in AI models like 2 years ago, where they would just make up factually incorrect information. I think the models are way, way better at not hallucinating now. And a couple of simple tricks that are like, please double check that you found a valid LinkedIn profile for this person, or please double check that the person currently works at this company is all I've had to do. I've had AI quality issues where it gets the tone wrong or it misses something, but I have not had many issues with straight hallucination recently. And yeah, the best technique around it is um I often in research workflows do a two-step flow where I'll first do a broad search with Perplexity, and then second, I'll have a step that does sort of a refinement and a structuring with one of the OpenAI models. And that gives me kind of a decent combination of breadth and depth. I like doing the initial broad research with Perplexity because I think it's particularly good at citing its sources. But again, that's my current position right now based on the models I'm currently using. But like, you should play around with everything, and your mileage may vary. And that's why we've built all the models. And Relay.app is not the only tool in the space that do this. About half the tools in the space have built all the models in, so you can easily switch between models, so you can build up intuition about which ones you like. I think Relay and Lindy and Gumloop make model switching really easy. In Zapier, Make, and N8N, you have to like connect the model to your own API key, which is a bit of extra hassle, but also doable.
Jacob, what are some of the other workflows that you're seeing kind of folks in this space finding super impactful?
Broadly speaking, I think the most valuable workflows are in customer facing roles like sales, marketing, customer success, customer support. So I see a lot of marketing use cases, content creation, lead research, competitive research, ad analysis, ad creation. Anything you would ask a human marketer to do, people are asking AI marketers to do. Same thing in sales. Support is a more nuanced one. A lot of people are excited about AI-powered customer support, but you have to be very careful in how you roll that out. And we've also had very good luck with AI customer success, looking at customer health scores, suggesting interventions, monitoring the kind of things that are just like hard for humans to do because it's so time consuming. I would say at least 70% of our usage is in those go-to-market oriented functions. Then there's a bunch of other operation stuff like syncing from your payments provider to your invoicing system or into the Airtable that you use to track all of your customers or personal productivity use cases like preparing for meetings or following up for meetings or managing your email or project management. But the way you should basically think about it is whenever you have a strategic need for your company, like let's say I want to invest more in SEO content creation, you should think about like, do I need to hire a person or can I, with a team of AI agents, do it myself? And so, for example, like when it comes to marketing, at various times we've hired contractors, but have always just ended up retreating to our marketing team is just me and a bunch of AI agents because I found that when our marketing succeeds, it's based on something kind of like a core insight or connection with my personality or something else. And so it's actually better for me to be the person driving like the core insights and the strategy, and now AI agents can do all the execution for me. So it's super fun. It's like all the leverage of having a team without any of the like bureaucratic and interpersonal interpersonal challenges. And so it's super fun. Like my prediction for the future is like we're all going to work at really small companies of super tight-knit, empowered, autonomous, high-quality people, all with our armies of AI agents. And having worked at mega corporations and small companies, I personally like working at small companies a lot better. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that future. Saw a couple other questions pop up. Um, oh, is Agent AI a competitor? I don't really consider Agent.ai a competitor. Dharmesh is awesome, and I love everything he does and how he talks and how he writes it. Agent.ai specifically is just incredibly limited compared to the other products that I mentioned in the space. Very limited in terms of integrations, very limited in terms of AI steps, very limited in terms of workflow capabilities, very limited in terms of agentic reasoning. I think like it's surviving on this, on the strength of his personal brand and the simplicity of it. It's getting a lot of noise, but I don't think it's a credible player in the space relative to the others that I mentioned. And yeah, it is nice that it's all free, which is another sign that it's still just a toy product because like if a lot of people were using it for real, even Dharmesh, who's a really rich guy, would have a hard time paying for all of that. But yeah, I think he's an amazing like thought leader and person to follow in the AI space, very forward thinking. I just think to build a great tool in this space, it can't be like a side project for one person. It's got to be a real company who's fully focused on it. Oh, what are we using for customer success? Airtable, Relay, and email. Like honestly, like we have an Airtable that stores all of our customers. We have Relay workflows that do health scoring. We have Relay workflows that do situational outreach, to suggest notifications, suggest interventions, and then we just like send people emails and meet with them. But we are not a super sophisticated shop in terms of customer success, but at our scale, like a bit over 1,000 customers, that's been working pretty well for us.
Awesome. Well, we are at time. For anyone who was wondering, we will have this recorded and posted after on our blog headlines. Jacob, thank you so much.
Thanks so much
I
for
This is the
joining.
second time I've heard this, and I learned so much I could listen to it 5 times over. Um, And for folks who want to get going with Relay, feel free to send Jacob an email after. I'll provide his email in the little Luma notification that pings out after. And he is happy to give you all some kind of additional steps onto that starter pack. But Jacob, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I hope others found this successful. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Bye.
Bye.